The good old days. Tell me about the good old days. Interestingly, in talking about the good old days, we're going to talk about a retro-futuristic story.
Forbidden Planet. I would argue, well, maybe you could argue Metropolis was the first movie, but it almost seemed like every decade for a while, you had a movie come out that really was trying to project what the future was going to be like. And for the 1950s, that future, I believe, was Forbidden Planet. 1960s, I want to say that future was 2001: A Space Odyssey. Remember? And of course, the 80s was Blade
2001
Runner.
was the 70s. 2001 was the 70s.
60s. 69, I believe.
Get out. Really?
I think so. Yeah, double check me on that. But yeah. But here we go. Forbidden Planet.
You're right. 1968.
Yep.
See, this is what I was talking about the other day when I said, things come, I was talking about it on Friday. Things can come out in the late 60s, but you don't really experience them until you're old enough.
And then you think it's something new.
Like when I was talking about the Spider-Man from 69 and the 66 Avengers, that was I saw that in syndication in the 70s.
It's interesting. When you're a kid, you don't necessarily realize something is as old as it is. I remember being a child watching Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Come to find out much later in life that wasn't a recent movie. I think it came out 10 years prior to when I was watching it, as a little kid. But I just saw it as a movie, something recent because it's on the TV. But here we have Forbidden Planet. This is definitely 1950s vision.
1971, that was the year I was born, yeah. So I obviously didn't see it until some years later.
Yes. But great effects in 2001, too. But great effects in this movie as well. Typically you see these, these CG Panavision, if this RoboCop was made in the 50s, that sort of thing. And you're kind of wondering, why didn't they try doing bigger, grander scale movies in the 50s? But they did. They did the biblical epics. You had, of course, Hitchcock doing his big suspense thrillers like North by Northwest. But there was a big science fiction, high budget science fiction movie in the 50s, and that was Forbidden Planet. And here we go. You got Leslie Nielsen in this.
Yeah.
In a leading man dramatic role for once. And he's good.
Yep, absolutely.
And do we know the name of that robot there?
That, of course, is the iconic Robbie the Robot. You can find out a great deal more about that robot and what happened to him after this movie by checking out the YouTube channel Movies, Music, and Monsters. There's actually a number of videos that he's done about Robbie the Robot. Forbidden Planet, what happened to all the props, the costumes, and so forth. And the fact that there is a guy out there who does commission work. It's not cheap, but you can get a full-size replica, working replica of Robbie the Robot.
What?
The robot from Lost in Space.
That's
and
the other
all
Robbie
kinds
the
of
Robot.
Other big props. Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
Robbie
you're
the
right. He
Robot
was
also
on both.
did appear on Lost in on at least one episode of Lost in Space.
Oh, the original one did. Yes, they met each other, which made me think these might be in the same universe, right? But
and absolutely, it did feel like it could have been. You know what else it could have also been in the same universe as?
What?
Star Trek. Because this story was very, very similar to many stories that we got in the original run of Star Trek.
If memory serves, did they have a transporter room?
They didn't. I don't think they had transporter technology.
Okay, I thought they did, but I could be wrong.
Because they landed the ship on the planet.
I know they landed, but here we go. That was Leslie Nielsen, though, as Commander John J. Adams. That's a great American name, if I ever heard one before.
Right.
Walter Pidgeon as Dr. Edward Morbius. And I think of Morbius, I'm thinking might be.
It's Morbin time.
But this was a very great effects-laden movie. This, I think, is the first motion picture to feature an electronic score, if memory serves. Yes.
I'm pretty sure they used a theremin, didn't they?
Yes, I think so. Yeah. There we go. There's their ship. Instead of the flying saucer having aliens, we're the aliens in this. We're the ones traveling to the forbidden
I
planet.
suppose that's true. Yeah.
This is an Earth-made spaceship. A cool spaceship though. And let's see. There's Robbie the robot. He's now, I guess, pilot. He's the driver here in this little transport tube, and that opens up, and he walks right out of it. Right.
Exactly.
This little transport shuttle. He's a jack of all trades. If you want him to, but he actually, he's not from the spaceship though. That's right. He was the creation of Dr. Morbius, right?
Yes.
Yes. And he can do a lot of fancy things. If this one guy, he wanted more Kentucky bourbon, so he was able to mass produce them like what is it, 100 canisters of it?
Well, and what's funny is, and I thought this at the time, it seems to me like, and I don't mean to be sacrilegious, but it does kind of come off as a nod or an homage to Jesus creating water, turning the water into wine at the wedding of Canaan.
Interesting. I can't help but think of Airplane and Naked whenever I think of Leslie Nielsen. That's true.
True.
But let's not forget though, he was a leading man when he was younger. And to be fair, you can do multiple things. Like William Shatner, I think, was a leading man on Star Trek at least, and of course we found out later on he could do comedy very well too.
And we found out he could do spoken word verse really well too.
Was Forbidden Planet any inspiration?
He's a rocket man.
Yes. Was Forbidden Planet inspiration the original Star Wars saga of the 70s or 80s? I don't think so.
No.
I think really, if it had any influence, it was more of an influence on Star Trek. If I'm going to call for anything, because there's a lot of groundwork in here that I think Gene Roddenberry.
In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if some of the props weren't actually reused in Star Trek. I just dropped the link to Movies, Music, and Monsters, the video about this, and I would bet you dollars to baked beans he answers exactly that comment that I just made. But no, Star Wars was more based on George Lucas had wanted to do Flash Gordon, and he couldn't get the rights to it. So he just decided to make his own version of the old sci-fi serial. And that's how Star Wars came about. I'm sure that all of these things had at least some impact on him.
Right, I'm sure. Leslie Nielsen was original choice for Masala in Ben-Hur. Interesting. I like the actor they used, though. I forget what the name of the actor who played Masala in Ben-Hur was, but he was actually he was a rather scary villain, but he starts out not the villain when you first see him, right?
Right.
Until in fact, it was an Irish actor who played him. So he didn't sound like the Romans, but he also didn't sound like the Hebrews, so it was interesting.
And as a potential, spoiler for a nearly 60-year-old film, this movie is essentially a modern retelling of Shakespeare's The Tempest.
I need to watch a telling of Shakespeare's The Actual Tempest.
Mm-hmm.
I should do that one of these days. I do know it's about sailors, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay. But look at that.
Sailors landing on an island and, dealing with a killer storm. And basically you saw this movie, you kind of know
it was The Tempest. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So here we go. We have Walter Pidgeon there as Dr. Morbius, who's a brilliant Earth scientist and I forgot the reason they're coming to this planet, but I guess they're coming
because he's the one that created warp drive. No. Sorry. I'm confusing it with Star Trek again.
Faster than light drive.
Honestly, doesn't this look like, if you look at the background and the interiors of his house, doesn't it look like the episode? What was it, Metamorphosis, with where they first introduced Cochrane in Star Trek?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Huh.
I don't know for sure if these are the same sets or whatever, but it's got that feel for sure.
Yeah. We have the lovely Anne Francis in this movie as the daughter of Dr. Morbius. Hold on. Her name is Alta.
Yep.
Altera. That's a
and
nice
I love the deer, because that it's a visual cue, right? You're supposed to think Greek mythology. You're supposed to think unicorns.
There you go. And there may be a love interest brewing here. Of course, she's the only woman in the film, so that helps, right? But I do like it when
it's almost like Pike and Lena, right?
Yes. Remember when he sees her bathing and he says, "Come swim," and he's like, "I didn't bring my bathing suit." And she asks, "What's a bathing suit?"
I'll be right there.
Oh man. Hey, Darth Plato will be good, but I see. Nice looking actress, but
Absolutely.
they're investigating, and of course at night there's some weird stuff going on. But of course it finds out that this planet was once inhabited by a advanced alien civilization, and Dr.
Right.
Morbius has been investigating it.
And look at this. I don't remember the details, so definitely check out Movies, Music, and Monsters because he talks about this. I can't remember if this was a miniature or if this was a matte painting, but
They're actually
you'll
walking
notice
across, yeah.
It's one of those composite shots where we're the camera is probably a story or two above them, filming down probably on a soundstage, getting them walking along this strip of land, and all the rest of that is matted in. The Krell were the name of the alien race. That's right.
And like I think Dr. Morbius was doing his intelligence testing in some machine, right? And basically he said, "Yeah, I have the intelligence of a small Krell child." That's how advanced they were. You understand?
Yeah, exactly.
And the doors you go into are very funny shape. Like I don't know if these were like almost like crab-like creatures, like because they were very wide. The doors that they would go through.
Right.
We never actually see the Krell, but we do see an invisible animal stalking them at night. They put up an electro shock barrier, I think, around the spaceship, and it starts getting shocked. You get to see the outline of this horrible beast that I think has killed a couple of the crew members. And of course, if you want to know where the effects for this beast came from, pretty nifty, huh? Animators on loan from the Walt Disney Studios.
Yes,
did all the animation.
They were literally done by hand.
By hand. So I find Forbidden Planet fascinating just from an effects standpoint.
Yeah.
Of what would happen if the movie filmmaking technology of the 50s was trying to do something fantastic at the best of their abilities. And you see it in other movies too, but you definitely see it here. And this is the big science fiction movie of that decade. And it's a classic. I bought the special edition DVD when it came out in the fancy tin box that came with a action figure of Robbie the Robot. So excited. Turns out it's like a figurine size.
Well, yeah.
I was hoping it was going to be more like a full-size Robbie the Robot, because you see those in catalogs from the Intergalactic Trading Company that I used to get.
I had a robot, the robot from Lost in Space. It was about, I want to say 6 or 9 inches tall, and it was battery operated, and it would like walk and stop and make some electronic noise and turn around and go in a different direction. I loved the hell out of that thing.
Yeah. I always thought that Forbidden Planet was Lost in Space in the future. Okay. But do you still have that Lost in Space Robbie the Robot figure?
I do not. No,
things get lost.
No, I gave it to my brother, and I don't think it survived. But such is the case with a lot of my toys.
Sure, the toy was loved at least, right?
It absolutely was. There is absolutely no doubt about that.
6-year-old
for your mother to give us another bag of toys, saying, "Oh, these were your brothers," and that's going to be in it.
Yeah, something like that. You're right.
A 6-year-old movie that looks better than anything made now. Well, we'll find out about that later. We have a news story about this.
We do have.
I brought it, Bob.
Yeah, we will possibly be debating that. We will see.
But I do have this. It was a nice special edition DVD. It actually came with some neat bonus features back when Warner Brothers was putting out decent bonus features. Of course, now I'm terrified that this fancy set I got will no longer work, because it might have been part of that Warner Brothers batch of bad DVDs, but we'll see. That Michael French blessing. But the cool thing about the tin case though was I was able to mail in for a replica of the Forbidden Planet movie poster.
Oh, nice.
And when I got their King Kong tin, because I got the King Kong tin as well, I was able to mail in for the King Kong movie poster. So I got frames for both of them and put them up in my room, when I was a younger man. Still in my 20s at that point. But and you had the King Kong poster, and King Kong was, of course, holding the young, attractive flapper lady from, I guess, the 30s or whatever when that came out. And of course,
right.
In this, you have the Robert the Robot holding Anne Francis.
Right,
exactly.
So
it was a similar poster. That's a little different, though. But
right.
Yeah, looking forward to. Sorry, she's nice looking. Anyway,
she is. There's no doubt about that.
But yeah, there it is, Forbidden Planet and classic. I don't want to say anything else. A monster inspired by Sigmund Freud. Let's leave it at that.
Yes,
I don't want to spoil anything. There's a big spoiler
right.
in the movie, but it is a great classic science fiction movie. I love this video. Oh, love Dan Moreau. You love this video about Disney film The Black Hole. Interesting. We talked about that on the rose-colored glasses episode, didn't we?
Absolutely. Yeah. Dan Monroe is just, you know what? I gave you the link. Go ahead and check out that video and then start checking out all of his other videos, and you will thank me later.
Well, that's it for Forbidden Planet. Watch it any way you can. They used to show it all the time on Turner Classic Movies. It is still available on Blu-ray. I suspect, though, we may be getting a remaster of it, probably in the next couple of years. More on that later.